What's going on, everybody? Cleepus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for the T-Mobile Revvl 6 to help you make the most of the camera features. Now, before we go any further, as always, I do want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, and in case you want to learn more about this phone, I will be linking to several other videos about it in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. The first thing I want to show you is a quick way to actually open your camera. Now, opening the camera app on the home screen is easy enough, but if you're not on your home screen, maybe you're browsing the web for example, and you want to quickly get to your camera, no matter what you're doing on your phone, all you have to do is double press the power key like this. And as you can see, the camera opens right up. Let's try that one more time, this time on an app. There we go. And once more with the display locked. And there we go. Now I'm going to show you how you can use the macro camera to get close-up detailed images. So of course, first things first, let's open the camera app. And from here, go down to where it says More. From this menu, go to Macro. And now we are in macro mode, where you can get close-up detailed images. Keep in mind, when you're taking pictures like this, be sure the camera is actually close enough to the subject, otherwise it's not going to turn out right. In addition to this, when you're done taking macro photos, be sure to exit out of this, otherwise your regular pictures are going to be blurry. Now I'm going to show you how to change your aspect ratio. Now by default, the aspect ratio for pretty much any smartphone camera is going to be 4:3, but we do have a few different options here. So to change your aspect ratio, what you're going to do is go up to this icon right here where it says 4:3, tap here, and you can go to 16:9. So if you're doing something like maybe an Instagram story, or if you go in landscape mode, this aspect ratio is also great for stuff like thumbnails. Then from here, we can go to 1:1, so you can get nice square photos. And then finally, we can go to full, which is going to use the entire aspect ratio of the screen. So in the case of this phone, full is going to be 20:9. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to turn on the grid lines. So to turn on the grid, what you're going to do is go to settings. As you can see, grid lines is right here, turn it on. And now if we go back to the camera, as you can see, the grid is on. Now I'm going to show you how to use the timer. Now I'm not sure how often people are actually using this feature these days, but in my experience, if you're ever taking a hands-free photo, especially something like a selfie for example, this feature really does come in handy. So to use the timer, go to this icon right here, and from here you can choose between 3 seconds and 10 seconds. So we're going to do 3. And now with the timer on, whenever you hit the shutter, instead of taking the photo right away, it's going to count down instead. So again, while you're probably not going to be using it all the time, still definitely a good feature to have, but also keep in mind, the timer doesn't just turn off by itself, so definitely remember this. Now we're going to go over how you can get the best photos in darker lighting. Now there are a couple different things to keep in mind here. First of all, when you're taking a photo maybe at night for example, keep in mind even in normal photo mode, it will adjust a little bit, so you don't always have to use flash or night mode. That being said though, if you're in a really dark area, like outside in the middle of the night for example, that's where night mode really does come in handy, because in extremely low lighting, night mode is going to look quite a bit better than regular photo mode. Now in case you don't know, night mode is actually real easy to get to. It's just right here on the bottom left corner. So if we go here, as you can see, we are now in night mode, and keep in mind, when you are in this mode, you're not going to be able to use flash. But all the same, if you are in a really dark setting, I definitely do recommend using night mode. And of course, you can also use flash, which is just as easy to get to. Now, when it comes to flash, if you're in more of an open space, I don't really recommend using it, just because in that kind of situation, it's really not that effective. But that being said, if you're in a closed environment, like maybe a dark room for example, then it could definitely come in handy. To use flash, it's on the top left right here. By default, it is going to be off, but you can also set it to auto, on, or torch. And in case you don't know, when you set it to torch, it's basically going to keep this light on indefinitely. Now I'm going to show you a couple different things you can do with the volume keys. Now by default, if you press either volume key, it's basically going to be like a physical shutter button. So if you're in photo mode, it's going to take a photo. And of course, if you're in video mode, it's going to record a video. So definitely a nice feature to have, but we do have a couple other options. So to change it, go to settings. Then from here, go to shortcut to take picture. And as you can see, again, by default, the volume keys are going to take a picture or record a video, but you can also have them zoom or do nothing. Now I'm going to show you how to take a burst photo. This is real easy to do. Essentially, all you have to do is press and hold the shutter button like this, and that's pretty much it. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to change your video resolution. Now, surprisingly, this phone actually has a max recording quality of 2K in the rear camera, and it can also record 1080p videos at 60 frames per second. So when it comes to video, unlike a lot of entry-level phones, the Revvl 6 actually has a few more options here. So to change your video resolution, unlike with a lot of phones, you don't actually even have to be in video mode. All you have to do is go to settings. From here, go to video size. And as you can see, we got a few different options here. You can record videos in up to 2K, And again, in qualities up to 1080p, you can also record at 60 frames per second. That being said though, keep in mind, when you're using the front-facing camera, the quality is going to be limited to 1080p at 30 frames per second. And finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to mute the shutter. Now I already kind of did this earlier, so throughout this video, you probably haven't heard any sounds, but keep in mind by default, as long as the phone itself isn't muted, whenever you take a picture, it's going to make this sound. So in case you don't know, to mute this, what you're going to do is go to settings, and as you can see at the top, shutter sound is going to be on by default, but once you turn it off, the shutter is no longer going to make any sound. But this concludes my camera tips and tricks video for the T-Mobile Revvl 6. Again, if you want to learn more about this phone, I will be linking to several other videos about it in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipus Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.